Hi, I'm Phyllis Stokes, and we're getting ready to make a lemon pound cake. And I'm going to give you the recipe in the beginning, and I'll also show you the recipe at the end after we finish making the cake. You're going to need 2 cups of softened butter, and that's going to be a whole pack of butter, 3½ cups of sugar, 4 cups of white lily all-purpose flour sifted, 1 teaspoon of salt, 8 extra large eggs, and I usually use Eggland Best, and the grated rind and juice of 2 lemons. Okay, we're going to get started by grating the lemons. Now, I've already grated this lemon, and I'm going to do this one now. Now, you want to use a grater and the finest edge that you have on it, rather than a planer. See that? You don't want to use that, so you'll need to get you one of these, and I would suggest if you buy one of these that you get one that is stainless steel. Now, this one came from Walmart. I've had it 2 or 3 years, and after I get through grating, all I have to do is just rinse it off a little bit and put it right in the dishwasher. So now we're going to get started grating these. You want to grate off all the rind on these lemons. And I've got a piece of wax paper under here to catch the rind. See, it's making it very small. So I'm going to finish grating the lemon, and we'll be back in just a minute to finish up making the cake. All right, we're back, and we've got our softened butter here. And to this butter, we're going to add 3 1/3 cups of sugar. Now this is 2 cups of butter. I know that seems like a lot, but this is going to make a very big cake, very tall cake. All right, there's 1, 2, 3 1/3. All right, there's my sugar. Now we're going to mix this around until I get my sugar incorporated into the butter. And after we do that, we're going to add the eggs one at a time. Now, to get your butter to somewhat room temperature, you could put it in about a 4-cup measuring cup, put it in the microwave on defrost for about 2 minutes, and then kind of stir it around. Now, you can cut the butter up into about tablespoon size chunks, and then put it in that microwave. Now see, it's almost like ice cream now. Now we're getting ready to mix this up with the mixer. Actually, maybe we don't even have to do that. See, when it's more at room temperature, it does really well mixing it up. All right, what I'm going to do is start mixing my eggs in. And you need to mix the eggs in one at a time. Now, I used white lily all-purpose flour. This is not the self-rising flour. It needs to be the all-purpose flour. And I've sifted out what's approximately 4 cups. Now I'm going to remeasure this into another bowl before I put it in the cake to make sure that I've got the measurements right. All right, we're going to mix the eggs in now. And we'll start out with 1 at a time. And again, I'm going to crack them on the table. They'll come right out. Now we're going to be back in just a minute after I've incorporated all the rest of the eggs. Remember, it's going to be 8 extra large eggs, and we'll come back and I'll show you how to put the flour and the other lemon juice and the lemon rind into the batter. Alright, the next thing we're going to do is add 1 teaspoon of salt. Now I've already incorporated all of my eggs. I'm going to mix that salt in real quick. Alright, you see how light and fluffy the butter and egg and sugar mixture is. Now the next thing I'm going to do is sift the flour again. I've already sifted it one time, but I'm going to sift it again after I've measured it. Now this recipe calls for 4 cups of flour. Alright, I hope you can see that. And here's the way you do the flour. Put it in a dry measuring cup, and then with a straight edge, just scrape across it. Right, there's 1. 2. The purpose of this is to make sure that the cake is going to have a really good texture. I usually just tap it a couple of times and then scrape it off. Now again, the white lily flour is a very light flour, and in my opinion, it is a lot better for cakes than even the cake flour that you can buy on the market now. Okay, give it a couple of taps and then scrape it off with a straight edge. All right, that's 4 cups. Now, I'm going to actually sift this again into another bowl, just because I want the texture of the cake to be very nice. And the way you do that is just simply sift the flour. This flour will have been sifted twice. Now, I've talked to older ladies that make cakes. You know, I'm talking ladies in their 75 to 80 years old now. And they sometimes sift their flour as many as 3 times to get that light, airy cake. Alright, again, white lily all-purpose flour. Now, you've probably noticed that we're not putting any rising agent in this cake mix. And the reason we're not is because the 8 eggs are going to serve as the rising agent. That, you know, eggs expand when you're cooking them. So as soon as the eggs get hot, they'll start expanding. Now I'm going to mix this in about 1/3 of the flour at a time. And you're going to mix that in by just using a spatula and stirring it in. Now the cake isn't going to have any lumps in it, and that's because we've sifted the flour so much. So I'm going to incorporate a little bit of that in. Alright, now I'm going to pour a little bit of the lemon juice and grated lemon rind in. Mix that in. Again, I'm not using the mixer at this point. Alright, I'm ready for a little more flour now. You want to do this and end with flour. In other words, you're doing flour, a little lemon juice, flour again, the rest of the lemon juice, and then flour at the end. Okay, see how that's mixing in very nicely. Now this is going to make a very tall cake, and it will make 24 pieces. And so you're really almost making a double cake. It's going to be a very tall 2-pan cake. Now here's the rest of the lemon and grated lemon rind. Mix that in. Alright, now I'm ready for the rest of my flour. I'm going to just dump it all in. again, just mixing with the spatula. At the very end, I'm going to put the mixer in it for just probably 30 seconds, just to make sure it's all mixed in. The more you mix a cake, the tougher the texture will be, because when you're mixing it and you've got the flour in and the wet ingredients, you're going to be developing the gluten. And that's what makes the cakes tough. But that's the very thing that makes yeast bread have a great texture. So it's just the difference between the two. All right, we've got that pretty well incorporated in now. And I'm going to put the mixer to it. Just maybe not even 30 seconds. That was probably more like 10 seconds or 15 seconds. All right, I'm going to wipe some of this flour up a little bit here. Now we're going to dump this into the tube pan. Now this is a Martha Stewart tube pan that I purchased some years ago. It has been lined with wax paper, and then I greased the wax paper. First I greased the pan just lightly, then put in the wax paper that I'd cut to fit. Then I greased it again, and then I added flour to just have a dusting of the flour on it. And this is the purpose of this, is so that you have a soft crust on the cake. Now I've already preheated my oven to 325 degrees, and it's going to take this cake probably an hour and a half. It really depends on your oven, but with my oven I'm guessing it's going to take an hour and a half. Okay. Just dump that in. It's kind of hard to get all that in. Again, this is going to be a very tall cake. Now you want to just smooth this out in the pan. The cake's going to rise up to the very top of this and make a nice moist cake. And even though I know it's going to be very moist, I'm still going to put a little sauce on it when it gets done. And we're going to go ahead and bake this now. And when we come back, I'm going to show you how to make the sauce. So we'll see you back here in about an hour and a half to an hour and 20 minutes. Okay, here's the cake recipe for the lemon pound cake. 2 cups of butter softened, 3 1/3 cups of sugar, 4 cups of white lily all-purpose flour, and you want that to have that sifted and then sifted again after you measure it. 1 teaspoon of salt, 8 extra large Eggland Best eggs, and the grated rind of 2 lemons plus the juice. You want to use a greased and lined tube pan. Alright, you will cream the butter and sugar, add eggs one at a time, and then add the flour in 1/3 increments, stirring into the mixture. Do not use an electric mixer here. Pour lemon juice and grated lemon rind into batter. Stir thoroughly. Then you can beat it just a little bit with the electric mixer. Now you'll be baking this in a tube pan that has been lined and greased and floured for approximately 1.5 hours at 325 degrees. Now you're going to pour the sauce over the cake while it's still warm. This will make a very tall cake, and you'll get about 24 pieces from it. Now the lemon cake sauce would be 1 tablespoon of honey, 3 tablespoons of butter, 3/4 a cup of sugar, 3/4 cup of whole buttermilk, 1/2 teaspoon baking soda, 2 teaspoons of lemon juice. and you will put the butter in the pot and boil it, melt it, and then add all those other ingredients except for the lemon juice. Bring that to a boil and then add the lemon juice and boil it for 1 minute. Then you're going to be pouring that over the warm, or really in the case tonight, we're going to pour it right over the hot cake, and then we're going to dump it out. So again, there's the recipe for the lemon cake sauce, and we'll be back in just a few minutes when the cake is done. Alright, we're ready to start the sauce because the cake is almost done. I've got 3 tablespoons of melted butter in the pot. To that I'm going to add a 1/2 cup of sugar and a 1/4 cup of sugar to make 3/4 cups of sugar. I'm going to add 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda, 3/4 a cup of whole buttermilk. Now I'm going to bring this to a boil, and I'm going to stir it constantly. To that I'm going to add a squirt of honey, and the reason for that is because I'm going to be pouring this sauce on a warm or really hot cake, and so therefore I don't want the sugar in the sauce to crystallize, so I'm going to use the honey to prevent that. So just a little squirt, maybe a tablespoon or so, should be enough. And I've got the 2 tablespoons of lemon juice, and I'm going to add them in right at the end. So we're going to just start stirring this. I'm going to go ahead and turn it up to medium heat and stir this until it boils. Then I'm going to add the lemon juice, and then I'm going to boil it for about 1 minute. Now, because I've added the baking soda, a 1/2 teaspoon, it will foam up a little bit. So we're just going to keep stirring this until it boils and the sugar's all dissolved. Again, this is going to be our sauce for the lemon cake. Okay, we're back, and the sauce is now boiling, and it's been boiling for about 30 seconds. We're going to dump the lemon juice in. Take it off that burner a little bit. I don't want it to boil over. Keep stirring it. Now the cake is almost done. I'm going to have to cool the bottom of that because it's going to go over the top if I don't. You might want to use a bigger pot on this. Okay, the sauce is really done now. It foams up like that because of the baking soda that I put in it. Okay, there's the cake. I'm going to go get the cake. I'll be right back. Okay, here's the cake. It's all done. Now, the timing was 1 hour and 40 minutes. 1 hour and 30 minutes in some ovens will work, and some you might need to even cook them longer than 140. See how it's cracked? That's okay, because that's just going to give opportunity for the sauce to go down in the cake. Now I'm going to pour some of the sauce on the cake now while it's still hot. See how it's all foaming up? This can be kind of messy, so we're not going to worry about that because we're just interested in a really good cake, not how big a mess it's making. We're going to let that soak in just a little bit. Now, it's going to soak in pretty good because the cake is warm. Now, I could poke some holes in the cake. In fact, I might just do that to just show you. I'm going to use my little, what I call the meat fork, and just poke it a little bit. I'm not going to poke all the way down in it, but just a little bit. Get that sauce to soak in. Now the cake is very, very hot. I just took it out of the oven. So see how it's soaking in? Might even pull it loose from the paper a little bit. Let that juice get down in the side of it. Okay, now we are going to dump this out here in very shortly. See, that sauce is running down between the paper and the side of the cake. Okay. Now we're going to use the rest of our sauce on the cake after we've dumped it out. So I'm going to dump it out, and I'm going to get the pot holders because the cake pan is very hot. And I'm going to bring it over here to the counter. Now this is probably going to be messy. So okay, here's my cake pan. I'm going to turn it upside down on there. Okay. Remember, the cake pan is very hot and this might be messy, so I'm going to try to do it really fast. Okay, I might need a little prayer here because this cake pan is really hot. Alright, here we go. Oops. Get it right in the middle there. Whoop. Whoop. Alright. We got it. Okay, now I'm going to lift my pan off. And I'm going to take off my wax paper. Oh, that's hot. And I'm going to take the wax paper off the bottom of it. Oh, it's very, very hot. See if I can get it off with a spoon. There we go. Oh, it's very hot. Oh. Ah. Very hot. Okay, there it is. Now we're going to put some more sauce on this cake. I'm going to try to get it a little towards the middle if I can. There we go. Alright. We're just going to spoon the sauce on it. And after you make this cake, you might want to just leave it sitting out on the counter overnight. Now, it's just the two of us, so when I make a cake like this, I cut it into slices and go ahead and put it in the freezer. And we usually eat, you know, maybe a couple of pieces of it, and then put it in the freezer, and we'll take it out, you know, a piece at a time when we get ready for dessert. And I'm just going to let that sauce run right down. Let some run down the middle. Now it will pull up in the middle, and that's perfectly okay. My attitude on that is the more sauce, the merrier. All right. Now I'm going to go ahead and cut us a piece of this cake. So I'm going to get a knife. Now this sauce is going to try to run out a little bit, so I'm going to put something under it, kind of get it at an angle. Now this is a very rich cake, so you probably don't need a very big piece. All right. Oh, it's hot, hot, hot. All right, look at the texture of that. It's very nice. It's also very hot. Okay, now since I've got a little sauce left, I'm just going to put a little of that sauce on each piece. Okay, there it is. There's the cake. I'm keeping it at this angle so that sauce doesn't run off of my pie plate. And you could just, as some of the sauce soaks in, you can just put a little more on it and let it soak in. Now the texture of this cake, if you will notice, looks very similar to a Sara Lee pound cake. Very similar. Alright, that's it. I hope y'all enjoy making this cake. Bye-bye for now.